Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Hopefully you're having a great day. Quick shout out to my newest patrons, Steven, Larry, Trevor, Robert, Triple Hits, Chowa, Jeff, Alan, and Shane. Greatly appreciate your support. Quick update, the next Patreon video will be up in the next 2 to 3 days, as well as more information on the giveaway, so stay tuned. First up, we have to talk about what Elon said last night in response to a Tesla stock chart. If any of this is based on Hertz, I'd like to emphasize no contract has been signed yet. Tesla has far more demand than production, therefore we will only sell cars to Hertz for the same margin as to consumers. Hertz deal has zero effect on our economics. While I would disagree with that last line, I do think it has a big impact on Tesla's economics. It's a 100,000 car order. And look, I get what he's saying. Tesla will sell as many cars as they make for the foreseeable future, but the economics are just different. And I think clearly the market agrees that having hundreds of thousands or millions of people in cars, Teslas, that are not yet Tesla owners is a big deal, and it will change your economics even if it is over time. But either way, let us remember that he did say, to be clear, cars sold to Hertz have no discount, same price as to consumers. So at this point, Elon had every opportunity to say, hey, this deal isn't official yet, everybody slow down, but he didn't. He essentially just confirmed that this was a thing. So honestly, I would not worry too much. As just today, Hertz was asked whether there was a signed deal or not. Hertz declined to comment, but said their announcement to add 100,000 Teslas remains on plan. And I know many of you are wondering, well, how are there Teslas on the Hertz website? Maybe they're ordering individual cars as a way to test the demand and to test the infrastructure and just to make sure everything will work before they actually officially sign this deal for 100,000 cars. Or maybe it's just something that administratively it hasn't happened yet and they just have an agreement in principle. It's just the actual ink on paper hasn't happened. So Hertz says still on track, and Elon just says the contract hasn't been signed yet, not that they're not going to sign it. So let's not get carried away here. If anything, this might just be Elon, like he has done historically, trying to slow down the Tesla stock price and trying to calm the level of euphoria. But moving on, Tesla makes some changes to its vehicle lineup and the ranges. So the Model 3 is no longer standard range, it's just going to be Model 3. If you want to add rear wheel drive, but it is going to keep long range and performance. But let's take a look at these range changes. The Model 3, what used to be the standard range plus, went from 262 to 272 miles on a single charge. And these changes are most likely due to the base models moving over to the LFP battery technology. And I'm showing you these changes on Electrek because it's easier to see the font than it is on the website. But the Model 3 long range went from 353 plus 5 to 358 miles with the 18-inch wheels, but the bigger 19-inch wheels, the range drops to 334. And the Model Y long range went from 326 up to 330. So as you can see, it's not just the base models or what used to be the standard range changing, but the long range vehicles are also getting a change. So we're only talking a difference of a few miles plus or minus here depending on the wheels. But one thing that I think is going overlooked, it looks like the Model 3 base model is now slower. We're talking like half a second plus type slower. It's now 5.8 seconds 0 to 60 when it used to be closer to 5. The Model 3 long range is 4.2 and the performance is still 3.1. But next up, let's take a listen to Anthony Scaramucci as he had some words that will ring true for many, many people.
Thank you for...
We didn't talk about Elon Musk though.
We haven't had Elon. What did you follow Elon Musk on Twitter?
I just got to give 30 seconds. And I drove the Tesla last night. Just a big heads up to every shorts. First time in a Tesla. The car is a spaceship, okay? I would get out of the way of Elon Musk if I were you. That would just be my personal opinion to people. You don't want to get in the way of a spaceship that's moving silently on the road. I would just point that out to the shorts.
And next up, we have to talk about this Rivian IPO, and specifically, I want to compare it to Tesla just to give us some context and take a look back. But Rivian plans to offer 135 million shares priced between $57 and $62 with an option for underwriters to purchase up to 20.25 million additional shares. Rivian would bring in roughly $9.6 billion in its market debut, Assuming underwriters exercise that option, that's not the valuation of the deal, that would just be the money that Rivian is raising for its business operations. Now, there is mixed reporting in terms of the valuation that Rivian is actually seeking, anywhere from $50 to $80 billion a few weeks ago. Now it seems like the number is hovering around $60 billion for that initial valuation. So when might this happen? Well, it might be as soon as next week, and they plan to list on the NASDAQ under RIVN. Rivian also said it will give retail investors access to purchase a portion of its IPO shares through SoFi's online brokerage platform. So in case you would like to get in before the rest of retail market, before the shares start trading on the secondary market, the traditional exchanges, check out SoFi. I've never personally bought an IPO from SoFi. I've just watched some of these videos as far as how it works. You can essentially indicate your level of interest. I think you can buy shares in groups of 3, and then you can say, hey, this is what I'm interested in. Then you'll later get a confirmation. Make sure you have the money in your account, and they'll actually give you the opportunity to buy those shares before they hit the secondary markets. Now, I know they're trying to encourage people to be more long-term investors, so there might be some fees if you're looking to flip these or sell in the short term, so just be aware of that, but might be a cool option to check out. And in case you missed it, Amazon said last week it had a 20% stake in Rivian, and Ford holds a roughly 12% stake in Rivian. And from their S1, as of October 31st, 2021, we produced 180 R1Ts and delivered 156 R1Ts. Nearly all of these vehicles were delivered to Rivian employees, and we expect to ramp deliveries to third-party customers as we increase our production rate. We plan to launch and commence customer deliveries for the R1S in December of this year. By the end of 2021, we intend to produce approximately 1,200 R1Ts and 25 R1Ss, and deliver approximately 1,000 R1Ts and 15 R1Ss. They continue, as of October 31st, 2021, we had approximately 55,400 R1T and R1S pre-orders in the US and Canada from customers who each paid a cancelable and fully refundable deposit of $1,000. Based on our current production forecast, we expect to fill our pre-order backlog of approximately 55,400 by the end of 2023. And last note here on their deal with Amazon and the EDVs, or electric delivery vans. By the end of 2021, we intend to produce and deliver approximately 10 EDVs. So as mentioned, some context for this Rivian IPO, let's go back and look at Tesla's IPO so we can kind of compare. Tesla's was June 29th, 2010. They issued 13.3 million shares at $17 per share, raising a modest $226 million for the company. They did actually add 2.2 million shares late the night before their IPO due to high demand. Shares closed on the first day of trading at $23.89. On a day, by the way, the NASDAQ was down 3.8%. This gave Tesla a market cap of around $2 billion after the first day of trading. Tesla was the first American automaker to go public since Ford did in 1956. And guys, listen, we have to remember that Tesla was burning through cash at the time to the tune of $300 million since it was founded in 2003. So from 2003 to 2010, they had burned through about $300 million in cash. Elon said at the time that they would have been profitable had they just been focusing on the $109,000 Roadster, but they were in the midst of ramping the Model S. And when we think about Rivian, could they be profitable if they just focused on the R1T? But they're trying to ramp the R1S and the EDVs, so they're spreading themselves somewhat thin. But this is important right here. Let's give these Rivians and Lucids some grace, because it took Tesla 10 years to post an annual profit from its IPO date. 2020 was Tesla's first calendar year, the first full year with an operating profit. So let's keep that in mind. And not to throw salt on the wounds, but just a fun fact, had you invested $1,000 at Tesla's IPO, it would be worth $293,157 today. Moving on, we have some interesting news. I would actually definitely classify this as a rumor. According to sources, Tesla will build a second Gigafactory in Qingdao, China. This coming from NetEase News, and if you translate that image, you see Tesla will build a second super factory in China, Qingdao, most likely to win Target, and it cuts off. Blockbuster News, it's rumored that Tesla will sign a contract to build a second super in Qingdao. And Sawyer's chimed in saying he hasn't heard anything about it, but it doesn't mean it's not true. But as we all know, Elon did say that they're not focused on searching for a new Gigafactory location yet, probably start looking next year. As right now, they're just looking to scale the current factories. But things can change. Maybe land prices in China have changed with the Evergrande situation, and they're taking advantage of an opportunity to buy some land or build a new factory at this time, given the current situation. Or maybe it's not a gigafactory, maybe it's just a factory for the $25,000 model, or it's just a factory for superchargers. Who really knows? Maybe it's nothing, but I just wanted to relay the information, and for now, you can do with it what you will. Now, on a map, as you can see, Qingdao is relatively close to Shanghai. It's a little bit north. It's like one of those situations where it's too far to be part of Giga Shanghai, but it's too close to make sense for the next Gigafactory. But we have heard rumors in the past about Tesla opening up a second factory in China. And from everything I'm reading, it sounds like Qingdao would make a lot of political and economic sense, as it's a wealthy area with great ports and all of that. So for now, let's just wait and see. Also, this is pretty cool. On the Tesla Find Us website, when it comes to superchargers, if you deselect everything but superchargers open to non-Tesla, this is now a new feature, and you take a scroll over to Germany, you can see now we are notified where we have superchargers open to non-Tesla vehicles. This is a nice feature. And speaking of, we got one of the first videos of an actual user with a non-Tesla using a Tesla supercharger, so just a few quick clips of his experience.
And then you press the user account icon, you swipe to the right, charge your non-Tesla, and then it will detect where you are. So I will select this location, and then here you can see the pricing, and this is crazy. Like, if you pay a membership of 13 euros per month, you pay the exact same rate as Tesla users. It's crazy. It's only 24 cents per kilowatt hour. I'm install 3C, so just select 3C. Then we have to, according to the Tesla employees, we have to first connect the charger. Once it's in, you go back to the Tesla app and you press start charging. 47 kilowatt. So that's not the maximum charge rate for, oh, there we go. 63. That's nice. This works great. This works just great.
And Tesla is actually now, interestingly enough, selling a J1772 Gen 2 wall connector, so this won't have Wi-Fi connectivity. That is with the Gen 3 versions, to my knowledge, but this is for non-Tesla vehicles. This will provide up to 9.6 kilowatts or 40 amps of power output for a single vehicle with a 24-foot cord. So why might Tesla do something like this? Well, one thought could be in commercial settings where these corporations want to buy destination chargers, they want to offer something for both Tesla vehicles and non. Now they can have that one contract with Tesla fulfilled, as they can have Tesla's Gen 3 chargers and this new Gen 2 for non-Tesla vehicles, rather than having to go to two different companies and deal with two different negotiations and all of that. And even simpler, Tesla might think it has better technology and a better price point than some of these other competing wall chargers for non-Tesla vehicles, and from what I've seen, a lot of the other price points are $500 and above, so Tesla might be trying to eat into some of that market share. And as I just opened Twitter, this happened to come up. So the Cybertruck guy says he actually did the same, looked at some of these other wall chargers. Clipper Creek's $550, Electron $450, Juicebox $600, so in the same neighborhood, but a bit more affordable. Next up, we get some news on Stellantis, which, by the way, it's just that merger of FCA and PSA that now has a bunch of brands under it, like Jeep and Ram pickup trucks, but they're now offering buyouts to pension-eligible salaried employees in the US as part of its transition toward an electrified vehicle lineup. This is for people that are at least 55 years old and have been with the company for 30 years, or who are at least 58 with at least 10 years of experience. They are saying this is a move to transition toward electrification, but they're really focused on hybrids a lot, which is disappointing. However, they expect to have an EV offering for all of its US vehicles by 2029, and here you have it, plug-in hybrids and EVs will represent at least 40% of sales by 2030. It doesn't sound like enough to me. Just a quick note here, anytime you see Tesla in recall, just know it's most likely going to be a software update. NHTSA just requires that they consider this a recall still, as they haven't found a better word for this. But this one specifically was the Tesla Beta 10.3 that had some emergency braking issues. Tesla then issued a software update, and as you can see, as of October 29th, more than 99.8% of the vehicles, all but 17, had installed an update and no further action is necessary. Next up, if you guys like talking big revenue potential for Tesla, definitely have a listen to Will Summerline from ARK Invest just last night.
Are you guys getting tempted to take profits, not just little trims, but take major profits? It's such a huge exposure for the fund that we just mentioned, but for the company as a whole.
So, we're a long-term focused investor. We focus 5 years out, and our current price target for Tesla is $3,000. Now, if we zoom out even further and think about the robo-taxi opportunity, and I focus on artificial intelligence, so I'm most excited by autonomy. We think that could drive $9 trillion in revenue to the robo-taxi platforms within the next decade. And, self-driving really comes down to a data problem. You need a lot of data to train systems to drive themselves. And, Tesla has a fleet of hundreds of thousands of cars collecting billions of data points every single day. Whereas if you look at Waymo or others, they have hundreds of cars on the road. And so they have such a data advantage. We think they're well positioned to capture that autonomous opportunity. And so while we do trade, actively, and Kathy manages the portfolios on a daily basis, we are very much long-term focused.
But it's not rising for the reasons you guys are bullish on it, right? It's not rising because of robo-taxis and autonomous. It's rising because, well, it just got a big order from Hertz, which clears the way, I think, for more mainstreamization of these EVs. So I wonder, so do you think that there's only more upside because of that? Why do you think it is rising? Because on a day like today, it jumped and there was no good reason.
I think people are starting to realize that this transition to EV is happening more quickly than many expected. And it's difficult for legacy companies to compete in this world. If you think about Tesla's ability to execute here, they've been building EVs as long as they've been a car company. The legacy car companies are just starting to come around the corner and try to build EVs. And so Tesla has a distinct technology advantage and a supply chain advantage and a manufacturing advantage when it comes to EVs. But I think people are also starting to recognize this robotaxi opportunity and give it some credit. Our $3,000 price target assigns a 50% probability to robotaxis. And every single day, more data is being collected. And the more data that gets collected, the closer we are to actually seeing that opportunity realized.
And yes, like many others, this chick kind of is lost in the clouds, with all due respect, but Tesla isn't moving because of the Hertz deal. Yes, it was a small catalyst, but it's primarily from the Q3 numbers, the margin specifically, industry leading, massive potential going forward, incredible demand, and institutional money portfolio managers getting their exposure to Tesla where they need it, adjusting their figures for the next 2 to 3 years. Next up, we have an update on NIO. So we got their October delivery figures for this year. Now, if you're a NIO fan, I wouldn't panic. I think these very low numbers were primarily a result of them having big shutdowns at their factories as they get ready for their new vehicle models, but it's definitely something that we should watch going forward. So they delivered 3,667 vehicles in October, down 27.5% year over year due to restructuring and upgrades of manufacturing lines and preparation of new products. They're saying that their factories were basically shut down for these changes from September 28th to October 15th, so they only had about 15 days in October to produce and sell vehicles. But they did say that the company's new orders reached another all-time high in October, driven by increasing user demand. So we'll wait for November numbers to see if this really was a one-off for manufacturing line changes or if there is something more serious going on. Next up from Motor Trend, this may be a leak to the GMC Hummer's new electric vehicle range. It could be 334 miles. This was basically found in a My Chevrolet app. People were discussing it on the forums. And just keep in mind, it would be a 200 kilowatt hour battery pack for this upcoming Hummer EV. Next up, it looks like the Model 3 in China, the Standard Range Plus, or now the base model, is getting a heated steering wheel coming soon. This coming from the company's VP in China, Grace Tao. But that is all for today. Please take a second to like the video if you did. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.